Everyone, it's Friday. Welcome back to Kingdom Speak. We have a guest in the house. The one and only legendary K-Pat is back with us. And you're going to want to tune in today. He's going to share an important update about his ministerial future. Welcome to Kingdom Speak with Pastor Daniel McKillop and Kelly Patrick. Man, everyone is listening right now.
They're in. Give them a second. They're calling people and telling them to listen.
Bro, you never guess what I heard on Kingdom Speak.
Oh, and you heard it here first.
Mm-hmm.
Flew all the way here.
In the house.
For this big announcement.
To make the announcement.
Wow.
So go ahead.
Well, the announcement is I will be on Kingdom Speak this episode.
Yes! Awesome.
This is in his immediate future.
We were wondering what was going on. We've heard a few things. Welcome in, everyone.
Yeah.
Now listen to this. When a reviewer grabs a headline like this, it makes you pay attention. So the review headline says this: Does Kingdom Speak eclipse Biblos?
Oh.
They left us 5 stars, so that's a good start. I'm having a hard time deciding between Kingdom Speak and Biblos as my favorite podcast. I guess I'll have to decide once I get my coffee cup from each. I'll be up for the Power Conference in May, and I'll need a VIP exclusive tour of the second floor basement studio. References for the podcast. I think you should get my pastor, Pastor Micah Narlock. Did I say that right?
Yes.
And his father, Bishop Sylvester Narlock, on your show. I can't wait to finally step foot in Plaster Rock and meet the wonderful crew of Kingdom Speak.
Such beautiful words.
That I've been listening to for well over a year now. God bless you guys and keep up the good work. That comes in from the lovely FJSN McHugh on Apple Podcasts. So boy, we will say amen to that.
Of course we will.
There's a lot to unpack there, but if FJSN has only been listening for a year, they have some work to do. Because as
Catching up.
You just pointed out,
Yeah.
is this 4 years?
I
Is it
think
4
we're
years?
coming in. We're closing
We're getting in
on 4 years.
Bro. Wow.
Congratulations.
Man, we pulled all the stops out for this anniversary episode. Ministerial announcements, updates. This is what it's all about.
I could have gave you some better suggestions.
Give them to us live. 4 years, can you imagine?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And as of yet, we've not missed a week.
As of yet. Which is why we're here to tell you we're taking the next 6 months off.
Yeah. Well, we haven't missed a week.
I was going to say something about that, but I thought as a guest,
Hey,
that's probably not my
What would you like to, you have the floor. What would you like to say? The camera's on you right now.
Hey,
What?
the
Go ahead.
difference
Go ahead.
is that when you guys go away, I go ahead and go to work for 2 days recording ahead so that our audience doesn't even know that you went away.
Where's the crickets?
I was getting them. I was getting
A
them.
little late.
We are airing it all out on the floor.
We are. That's what happens after you've been the honeymoon. The honeymoon period is over.
We're in that phase of our
We're in-
relationship now where it's like,
That phase of our relationship.
Where do you
we
wanna
need
go for
Ryan
supper?
Franklin back with some relational
Yeah.
nutrients.
where are we going
Maybe
for
you
supper?
can help us.
Don't matter.
But what about Power Conference? You want to talk about that now?
Oh yes, we do.
So yeah, how about it?
So you all need to come
Man, you
and
book the tickets, folks.
Just stop in on your way by.
yeah,
If you're in the area.
Yeah.
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 In case you're passing through.
We have one of our guest speakers for the conference is actually here to do a preview
Yeah.
today. This is part of his ministerial future.
Yeah.
I thought this is what he was going to refer to, that he was going to be being
I missed the cue there.
speaking at Power Conference.
I'm here to announce
this
I'll
year.
be speaking at Power Conference.
Yeah.
Please come.
So we have missionary Damon McKillop that's going to be speaking. We have evangelist Michael Barrier, Bishop Brad Lambeth, evangelist
the one and only.
Kelly Patrick, and Pastor Jonathan Shoemake that is going to be with us May 16th, 17th, 18th, and 19th. So,
Come on.
I have a funny story about Power Conference.
You do?
I actually shared this with you, with Randy the other day. So I was preaching in Tulsa, and one of the services, Brother Michael Barrier was there. And now I had not seen the flyer, the promo, the advertisement for Power Conference, so I wasn't aware who else would be preaching.
Okay.
So after service, I went back to speak to him, and he said, "Yeah, I'm looking forward to being with you in a few weeks." And at first, I was caught off guard. I said, "Wow, where are we going to be?" And he said, "At Power." And I said, "Oh yeah." I said, "We'll have a great time." I said, "The preaching will probably be lacking a little bit."
Oh, you said it?
I was referring to myself.
What
and
does he
his
do as
response was, "Yeah, mine probably will be." And I was like, "Are you preaching?" He said, "Yeah, I thought you knew I'd be preaching." I did not know who else was preaching. I promise. I was referring to myself.
You see, that's how one evangelist treats another evangelist. That you.
So again,
Yeah.
I've already apologized, but Brother Barrier, please accept my humble apologies.
Yeah.
It's going to be tremendous.
Yeah, the preaching's going to be.
Yes.
Hey, we always have a good time. So, and if you come, we will give you a tour.
Come on in. Yeah.
We'll give you a tour. Absolutely. I like that. The second level basement.
Second level basement.
Yeah. Yeah. So let us know if you want to be here, show up, expecting God to do great things.
You might not have a spot to sit. I'm just going to say it's pretty packed. I'm going to predict.
This could be the last one in our building.
That's true.
Yeah, it's just insane to even say out loud.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. The next one, if it's not in the New Jerusalem, could be around the corner, at least in the new building.
Mm-hmm.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. So we were blessed by the ministry of our friend, Brother Patrick, this weekend. Wow.
Tremendous.
Yeah.
What did he preach on again? Oh, I thought my mic was muted. I'm sorry. I was talking
Yeah,
to
you
the
thought you
producer.
should talk back, Mike.
Yeah, I was going for the
You're using
producer.
to the talk back, Mike.
Yeah. When do I nod? What do I say?
sermon title?
Yeah. Yeah. The history of victory. And you can't remember the history, can you?
Something. It was a good point, whatever it was.
Yeah, at the end, God won. That was kind of the gist.
Yeah, it's like, he read some Bible
Like we
verses.
didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Took a while to get to that point, but we made it. And can't you feel the love when guests come in here? You know, number one, you've lost pretty well all of your guest status
That's it.
when
If
with
that's,
disregard to your status, they just go ahead and
that
smear.
started right off the bat, so I guess I never
Yeah, it
had
actually did, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the things that I enjoy outside of the fact that Brother Patrick's ministry is always on point and powerfully anointed, one of the things I enjoy is just our time to fellowship. And we do this thing where we talk about the Bible instead of people.
Yeah,
It's kind of
much more
so
enjoyable.
we decided that we'd done enough talking about the Bible. We wanted to talk about people.
Yeah,
So we're going to do it today on the show.
we got a list.
Yeah, we got a list.
Are
If
you
you're a people. So one of the objectives of Kingdom Speak is to try to give people an inside perspective at sometimes what these conversations are like in a pastor's home, where we just start talking about a topic and one thing leads to another. And
Yeah.
I enjoy those moments, probably second to hearing someone
Yeah.
preach.
Absolutely.
They're special.
Insightful.
Yeah. Iron sharpening
Yeah.
iron. So we started talking about this topic today, and Brother Patrick, the more he talked about it, the more I said, you know what, we need to do an episode about this. So I'm gonna throw it to you to kick off and kind of frame the topic for the next few minutes. But man, thank you for being here with us today.
Well, it's always an honor to be a part of Kingdom Speak and to be with all you guys. And as Brother McKillop was saying, one of the interesting things about ministry that is enjoyable is being able to just sit around and talk about the Bible and talk about the different perspectives that each one has
Yes.
on a particular subject or verse or concept. And so what we're going to be talking about today is really just a seed thought that has come out of reading and listening. And the subject matter obviously is something that's old and needs to be talked about continually, and that is simply preparation for ministry or
Yes.
being used of God in really any facet.
Sure.
And so that's kind of where this got started today. And I have a list. I learned this from Bishop Booker years ago, to keep a list of every thought you ever have, no matter how insignificant it
Yes.
might be.
Yes.
Years ago, I did it in a notebook, typed it all out. I've got 2 or 3 notebooks that are just nothing but thoughts.
Did you put down all the references and everything, or
No,
you
just whatever thought it is.
Okay.
Yep.
Just as a matter of
like a seed
curiosity,
thought.
you're using an app for that now?
I just use notes on my iPhone.
Yep.
Just have one that's just all seed thoughts.
I do the same thing, except I use Evernote, but
Yeah.
hundreds
And so this is just
of them.
speaking of preparation. This would be just a little divergent here for a minute. In training young ministers in the local setting, one of the things that I tried to address was the idea of having opportunity, but you know, when I hear a young man or really anybody say, "Man, I just don't have anything to preach," well, that tells me it's a pretty loud indicator you haven't been spending any personal
Yes.
time.
Yes.
Because I don't say this other than just illustration, and I think every preacher out there would understand. Doing the seed thoughts, I've got more than I'll ever preach in a lifetime.
Absolutely.
So that's a great practice and discipline to start.
Yeah, and you can't buy the lie that you'll remember.
No, I've tried that.
Oh, sometimes my best
Yeah.
thoughts, or at least I think they are because I can't remember them. Some of my best thoughts
They were going to
never
be
got
the best messages.
They were, and they never got written down. So, 3 o'clock in the morning, and you wake up and there's just this. Well, I'll remember that in the morning. Oh, it's a bad morning.
So this is just one of those seed thoughts, and we were going through. I was scrolling through, and we were talking about different things, and I brought this one up, and it just kind of connected,
Yes.
and we started unpacking it a little bit. And it is found in Exodus chapter 20. Now, the latter part of Exodus is God revealing to Moses the tabernacle, all the aspects of the tabernacle. And in chapter 28, he begins to reveal to Moses the clothing of the priest.
Yes.
What's interesting about this to me, this is kind of where the seed thought is this precedes Leviticus chapter 1 in your Bible and as well in the chronological revealing to the priesthood. Leviticus deals with the duty, the actual actions, the work of the priesthood.
How it's supposed to be carried out.
Right.
Yep.
So it appears, if we just use this order as it is in Scripture, it appears that God gave Moses the instruction of how the priest should appear or dress before he gave Moses the instructions on the duty of the priesthood.
Yes. Yes.
And that, I don't know, it just kind of resonated with me that it appears, there's a lot of aspects to this, but it appears that, at least to God, he wanted to make sure the man was prepared before he revealed to him the actions.
Any assignment was given.
Yes.
Yes.
What his duty would be, what it would
Yes.
require of him.
Yes.
Make sure the man is prepared. He's got they call them the garments of consecration. So if you just read Exodus 28 verse 1, take thou unto thee Aaron thy brother and his sons with him. I don't want to offend our official Bible reader.
No, you've already offended me.
Okay,
So
well,
it's
let's
fine.
just continue on. Then. Sorry. I'm out of practice here. I'm an evangelist now. We don't have those perks.
You lost your reader, man. So now I don't know whether to read or to let you continue to read. I'm in this weird space right now.
And his sons with him, verse 1, from among the children of Israel. So, I mean, we could get sidetracked on so much. That he may minister unto me in the priest office. So Aaron and his sons are going to be brought out from the people. They have a responsibility to minister. But we don't know what that looks like. Not if, we're just reading as the Bible unfolds. We don't know what does that mean.
I've always been intrigued just hear you talking about the separation of the ministry from the people and the priesthood. I'm always intrigued by the wording of that when you read that they were to be taken from men for men.
Yeah. Man of like passion.
Yeah. And if you ever find yourself, and I'm sure you've seen it over your years of pastoring and leadership, that the objective of carnal people, and for sure the objective of our adversary, is to switch our perception of the ministry to the point that, they're from men. They have no problem saying that because you're just a man.
Yeah.
But then they begin interpreting it against me
Instead of for me. Wow.
The objective of the priesthood is to be for.
Yeah. The writer of Hebrews says that he might have compassion on the ignorant and those who are out of the way.
Yes.
So he's a man taken from among men.
Yes.
And in my years of teaching on fivefold ministry or the pastoral office, explaining to the people, God's first objective is the people.
Right.
And all ministry is lifted out from among the people.
Mm-hmm.
So God doesn't have a ministry that he then creates a people for. No, we're all part of the people first.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then out of the people,
elevated out. Yep.
he brings up
Yep.
and places men into already designed offices.
Yes.
And that's why it can continue on generationally.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because the office isn't hinged on me.
There'll always be a people.
Yes.
Yeah, and there'll
Yes.
always be a people. Which takes us to where we got into this discussion today about Nadab and Abihu, the sons of Aaron, when they offered strange fire. The Bible says that a fire came out of heaven and consumed them
Yeah.
in their garments.
Can-
the garments were not.
Yes. I want to hear more about that garment thing. Just a question there. What do you think strange fire constitutes? Was it purple and pink polka dot? Like, was it?
My personal opinion is just that, what it is, personal opinion. I don't think they fully understood the distinction. One or two things. They either didn't understand the distinction between the fire of the altar that had been consecrated, and they thought they could just use whatever fire they wanted. What's the difference in fires?
Right.
Or they themselves were not pure. And so when they tried to offer even the fire from the altar, because maybe they had skipped a step, or maybe they didn't take to heart all the process, that God looked at it as strange fire.
That's all. It's always been an intriguing thing to me when I read that about strange fire. Was it just an appearance, which I really think it's more to what you were saying. I don't think it's that it just looked funny.
No, I don't.
I think it was. It was out of order. So anything that is offered out of order, whether it is by reason of one of the two examples that you just gave, of not consecrated, or being offered by someone who wasn't right.
Yeah.
When you're at a position, the fire as itself remains the same, but it's interpreted as strange.
Yeah.
Because it's out of that order. So they offer this strange fire, and God deals with them by fire. Right.
Which, interestingly, okay, so we're going to get off on another little trail here. If you go to the New Testament, the Bible says that the message that John the Baptist preached, he said that the fan is in his hand, and he shall thoroughly purge the threshing floor and gather the chaff and cast it into the fire. But John's also the one that preached, he that cometh after me is mightier than I, whose shoes I'm unworthy to bear, whose sandals I'm unworthy to unlatch, who shall baptize you with the Holy Ghost and fire. I believe it's the same fire. It depends on where you are in relation to the fire. The fire, that's a subject we get kind of off track there, but I think it's the same fire that you're baptized with.
Sure.
And the same fire that the chaff is consumed in. Just depends on your position to the fire.
Yeah, and seeing how we're out here in this, I mean, Elijah on Mount Carmel is very careful to articulate that there's to be no fire within the altar.
Yeah.
The fire is to descend from heaven if it's to be that sign of divine approval.
Right.
Letting you know that sacrifices can be built in a way that the fire is built within it to feign heavenly approval. And he was careful to say, no fire in it, only fire on it.
Yeah. And that subject could go on and on and on.
See?
But if we circle back, we would say that fire that came out of heaven consumed the men, but left the garments untouched.
Fascinating. Yes.
These garments you're talking about in Exodus.
Right.
Yes.
And they were carried out, the Bible says, in the garments.
Which represents the office.
The office. Yeah. So as they were carried out, this is just my imagination working, as they're carrying them out of the temple.
Think about that.
Carrying these garments out, and the ashes and the remains of these two men are in the garment. But what the people see is not the burnt humanity. What the people see is the intact garment of the priesthood.
Yes.
And it's a message from God saying the office and the priesthood is not made for the man. The man's made to fill the office.
Woo! Boom!
Yes.
Listen to that. That's good stuff.
Yes.
So, and this is even the danger in ministry, is we can get to thinking, well, this office was made for me.
Yes, exactly.
Instead of recognizing, no, I'm going to pass someday, and this office is going to stay intact, and there's going to be another man.
Right, because the office is always transgenerational.
Yeah.
The man only serves his generation.
You scared me there for a minute.
That trans word?
Yeah.
Yeah. Transgenerational. We pulled through that one.
Scary.
I think it's Raymond Woodward that said in his episode a couple of years ago that, and he was talking about transition, it's important that every pastor remembers he is always a pastor in transition.
Yeah.
Always.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But that office
It's gonna
will
remain.
absolutely remain.
Yeah.
And in those moments when the man, like that's just how exact, with what exactness does God execute judgment against the man and not taint
Yeah. The office.
the office.
And I think even in our lifetime, we've seen the same effect.
Okay.
We've seen men who either violated or tainted the office who were removed, but the office stays intact.
Yes.
You know, if we're paralleling the priesthood with the New Testament,
ministry. Right.
You know, so when a man violates his office as a pastor or an evangelist, prophet, apostle, whatever office it might be, or gifting, it doesn't eliminate all pastors.
But is that not what the skeptic, critic, doubter wants?
Yeah,
They want the office destroyed with the man.
right.
For sure.
Let's consume.
Yeah, I had
Let's
one.
consume it all.
Yeah, I had one bad experience, so
Yeah, they're all bad.
now the whole model is getting thrown out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We talked about that, and you and I were discussing it, but on a recent episode that I was on with Dear Young Married Couples, and we were talking about this new terminology that has emerged of church hurt. You know, number one, the term didn't even exist
yeah. Till
in
recently.
previous generations. You know, that's kind of a recent development. But without getting derailed into that, we have these people that, if we're not careful, they adopt this victim mentality so easily. Some of it's there's authentic cases of it,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
always, but not everything that's diagnosed that as such is such. And when they see that I'm in this position where I've been wronged and something has happened, and at that moment they can't throw away all pastors with that.
Yeah.
So an abuse, and this is one of the examples that I gave in talking about that, is everything relationally that exists, and even things outside of that, can be abused.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Everything.
Yeah.
My friendship with you, I can abuse it.
Right.
If we have no relationship, it's hard for me to abuse you. So
Yeah.
the relationship is what gives me access to you, to relate to you in an abusive way. So with your wife, and one of the ones that I gave as an example was money, because that's something that we all tend to want. But people abuse money. But not everybody abandons money just because someone abused money.
Right.
I still spend it. And I'll spend more of it if I can find some more, right?
Yeah.
So the fact that authority is abused doesn't mean that we abandon it altogether and just and that to me is what God is demonstrating in that story of Nadab and Abihu.
Yeah.
Is he is exacting with and I think this is an important point. I don't think we can do that.
Yeah. No.
I think that takes a divine act.
Right.
To be able to deal with the man and leave the office untainted. When we start trying to burn the man out, we ruin the garments too.
Yeah, that's right. I think too, one of the things that is happening, and I'm approaching this idea in Exodus 28 from the standpoint of the man being prepared
Yes.
for the weightiness of his position.
Yes.
And
Yes.
when you think about the garments that God is going to instruct Moses to have made, he says, "Thou shalt make holy garments for glory and for beauty."
Love it.
So
God's not a drab God.
no, and there's this almost this implication that God's going to clothe this humanity with what is not inherently His.
Well,
So he's stepping into some areas that, as a man, he's unworthy to be stepping in. So God's going to prepare him.
wow.
Yes, when I hear that, he's dressing him for the occasion.
Yeah, he's the old cliche. He's dressed for success.
That's cool.
He's prepared by God to be in a position, and this, teaching this and explaining this to ministers as they develop, I think is important, because sometimes, as we are blessed and anointed of God, we get to thinking, well, that's my ability.
Yes.
And the process of this preparation is, no, Aaron and his sons are not going to fulfill this office because of their ability. They're going to fulfill this because they're going to be properly clothed and prepared. It's going to radiate beauty and glory. But it's not theirs. They're stepping into it. This is God created.
Well, and if we look at it from using the word that freaked you out a moment ago, but that transgenerational. Okay. When you realize that, you realize that garment is not pointing people to you.
No, to God.
Right? Because the guy that wore it before me and the guy that'll wear it after me, it's really immaterial. Got that?
Yep.
Immaterial. What?
Oh, I was just letting out some.
It's
letting out some wind.
Hear
I'm
about
good.
this.
So punny.
It's really immaterial who's in the material. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
How can we not like
I didn't expect
We're
it to
getting
go
deep.
that way, but it's not pointing them to me.
Yeah.
We have two dads here exchanging jokes and just pointing us out. Go
Two-
ahead.
two
You guys
people-
keep going.
Proud-
Whenever you're ready to get
proud
back to the
fathers.
episode.
Yeah.
Two people laughed.
Yeah. Not my children.
Yeah. Well, I think there gets to this when there's that when it is passed from one generation to the other. The garment from a distance, because a lot of it was from a distance. They couldn't get too close. Then they would see the next generation, but they looked exactly like the previous generation. There was no variation.
And there's this weird dynamic that happens, and any minister will resonate with this that's been used of God. This glory and beauty that is a reflection of God.
Mm-hmm.
Yet the people, like you just said, the people see it upon the man. So that man has to be capable of reflecting that away from himself back to God. And the minute he starts kind of
Absorbing.
that,
Wow.
he begins to taint the glory.
Well, and that's almost Luciferic in nature, right?
Right. Yeah.
Right. It's to
Yeah.
reflect it and pass it on.
Which there would be some who would feel like these garments that are prepared here are in some way representative of what was lost by Lucifer. When his how does the Bible say it?
Interesting.
His garment. That's not the word it uses though.
Sure. He was arrayed.
In all these
Stones.
and his very nature was to reflect the glory
Yes.
of God.
Yes.
And so
That is very interesting. So there's the view that God designed these garments to be representative
So
of that position. Wow.
it's the same concept. In other words, these garments are designed by God, and every
are.
piece of it
They are.
Has a reflective nature of God. And God is going to put that on a fallen man. He's going to cover that man up in those reflective garments.
What a visual.
Man.
And this is what keeps standing out to me in this context, is that all this is transpiring, and if I apply that to ministerial development, all this is taking place before the man even knows what is it that I'm going to be required to do.
Yeah. And what steps do I follow, and what's the details?
God said, well, let's get you prepared first. Let's get you right. And so if the man can be clothed appropriately and prepared, he'll have no issue with the duties that are required of him. I think sometimes in ministry we get it backwards, where what am I going to be doing?
Yeah. And if I think the duty is within my ability, then I'll dress right.
Yeah. And I'll
be prepared.
The idea of ministry, I think, in the context of, we're paralleling this or making an analogy to the New Testament ministry, is ultimately, and we talked about this today, you mentioned Brother Woodward making the comment about the difference between the call and the role.
Yes.
I think we're missing a little bit of this in modern development of ministry, and that is the first and primary thing is to accept the call, then to allow the process of preparation. Once that is in action, you are no longer your own. When God spoke to Ananias in Damascus,
yes,
to go
that's exactly what I was thinking.
and tell Saul
Yep.
what has transpired.
Yeah, not Paul.
Not Paul, Saul.
Yeah.
He says to him, I want you to tell him, you are a chosen vessel. Well, we tend to think, wow, man, I'm a chosen vessel. Well, let's put this into proper context. God is basically saying to Saul, I looked in the cupboard, in the cabinet, for something I could use that would allow me just to do whatever I wanted to with it.
Sure.
And I selected you. You're the vessel I selected.
That is so good.
You're mine now.
Yeah, don't go tell him what he's going to do.
Yeah. You're mine now.
Wow.
And you're going to, he didn't tell him all the things that were going to happen. He just said, oh, by the way, tell him how many things he will suffer for my name's sake.
Yeah.
So the question is, do you really want to be chosen? Because that don't always mean you're going to be the elite.
No.
Just might mean you may be
Absolutely.
the common pincushion.
Wow.
But that kind of gets off subject a little bit, but it is part of the preparation. And these garments to me represent the process. When you start going through, of course, all the descriptions that are given here, thou shalt speak unto all that are wise-hearted, whom I have filled with the spirit of wisdom, that they may make Aaron's garments to consecrate him. So these garments are for ministry, and they are also to consecrate the man. So every time this man puts these garments on to fulfill the duty, he feels the weight of the consecration of his selection.
Right. And the responsibility that's associated with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Which to me, and boy, this can get really controversial real quick.
We love controversy here,
But,
don't we?
we're shooting for ratings. So,
Yes.
Now
Yes.
we're listening now. Yeah. Everybody's turning the volume back up. Right?
This is the part about the future ministry here.
Yes.
I see where this is going.
and I'm just a product of those who have impacted my life. But I would say there's still an element to this, that that ministry carries with it a certain weight that you don't necessarily get the privileges of everyone else, in the sense of, doesn't matter, and this is, I hear Bishop Odum in my ear right now, preacher, you don't get a day off.
Yeah.
You're a preacher on vacation. You're a preacher at the grocery store. You're a minister of the gospel.
Right.
Make sure everything you're doing that anyone would ever catch an eye of represents the office that you're called to in an appropriate manner.
I don't have the, if I could just insert you bringing up Bishop Odum's name, I don't have the history of the relationship with Bishop Odum, but in recent years, God brought him into my life, and I am forever grateful. One of the first times that I remember having conversation with him outside of just being in awe of how God just used him to, speak a word, at East Coast Conference or something of that nature. And I was preaching. It was in North Carolina at East Coast Conference. And I went down for breakfast, a gourmet breakfast at the hotel. Holiday Inn Express. That was it. You got it. Sounds like you've been there before. And he walked in the room into the little cafeteria area. And I mean, he is together, And he walks by my table, and I'm sitting by myself, and he goes, Pastor McKillop, could I have the honor of sitting with you? And I'm like, the honor of sitting with me? Yes, sir. Everything inside. And he comes back, and he said, one of the things I want to mention to you, I've been watching you. And he said, I appreciate how you're dressed this morning. He said, I don't think we talk enough about, and I understand that we're talking a whole lot more than just what suit you're wearing. But even on that level, he said, we need to represent I remember him saying it just like that. We need to represent well the office that God has called us to.
Yeah. Well, and I stand by what the next statement that I'm going to make, in the sense of going back to the weightiness of ministry. If you can alleviate the weightiness of the ministry, then you can be more casual.
Oh, yeah.
In your approach to ministry.
I was afraid you was going there. Yes. So that's one way we escape.
That's one way
we fit in.
Escape, is that we alleviate that weight. And this is a subject in and of it by itself, but symbolism is powerful. Symbolism, both to the man and to the people, is powerful. Mm-hmm. And this whole idea that all this symbolism doesn't matter, we can get rid of all that.
Sure.
Well, when we do, we start getting we get rid of it.
Willy Wonka. Yeah.
Willie?
Willie, we will.
Yeah.
All right. When we get,
you sound like that lady that was on our flight the other day.
Enjoy your flight.
Welcome to your flight. We thank you for frying with us. I hope people weren't drinking their coffees right there because they just spit it. Go ahead.
When we rid ourselves of some of this weighty symbolism, then we can approach the whole idea of ministry with less responsibility, less. We don't mind lessening.
So good.
And I'll just touch one of the hot buttons right here. One might as well. We're here. One of them is the idea of a podium, a pulpit.
Yes.
Those were never meant for the people. They're meant for the man.
Yes.
Now, Jesus did not preach behind a pulpit, but they are the weightiness. They're not meant for the people.
Sure.
They're meant to remind the man
That's symbolism
of the weightiness of his calling.
Yes.
That he's not stepping up there to read an article.
Yes.
He's stepping up there to deliver the Word of God.
Mm-hmm.
And he should feel the weight of that.
Yes.
Well, when you remove that, there is nothing reminding the man.
Yes.
So when you apply that symbolism across the board, that then you begin to alleviate some of these weighty things, and the man doesn't feel as weighty about his calling.
So good. And he becomes, by extension, a little bit more flippant with how he executes the duties and roles associated with such.
Yeah.
Random question here. What about neckties?
Well,
I knew it. I knew it was coming.
You don't have to answer that now. We can move on.
I have an answer for you. There was a generation, if we could just pan the camera over here, that would suggest neckties are adornment.
Okay, I want to hear your response.
Thank you for listening this week, folks. It was a great podcast.
I knew he was going to bring that up.
Hey, I almost
went there.
I waited until
like
twice. 45 minutes.
Yeah.
He's going to give me something.
I almost went there twice, and then I'm going to leave him some low-hanging fruit. Go ahead. Let him pick. I have always said this, just within the context of our discussion today. Let me loosen up my tie.
Feels good, doesn't it?
Yes. I've always made this comparison when you're talking about Joseph and his coat.
Yeah.
Okay. It clearly set him apart from his other brethren, and that was problematic for his relationship with his brethren, jealousy and the inbreeding of everything associated with that. But it also, if you go down the track of how this would affect him in a day-to-day existence, he didn't fit in anywhere.
Yeah.
So, to bring it to the country boy application of today, it was pretty hard to smoke behind the barn in a coat of many colors and pass it off that it wasn't you.
Right.
No, that was Reuben.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think so. You're the only guy I know that has a coat like that.
Yeah.
So it does keep the weight of purpose ever before you that, hey, I can't just become a faceless, nameless member in the crowd. That'd be a good something to talk about, a crowd.
Yeah, somebody should talk about that.
Yeah.
Tying into Joseph about just the subject matter here that the seed thought of preparation, representation, and purpose, and what it reflects.
Yes.
Joseph fulfills all those things.
Yes, he does.
And interestingly, when you study the story in the life of Jacob, not one time does the Bible record that Jacob ever contemplates returning until Joseph is born. There's something about the birth of Joseph that resonates with Jacob about the promises that are yet to be fulfilled. And he sees something in Joseph that awakens in him, this is not where I belong. This is not my destination.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually supposed to be going back to Canaan, back to the land of the promise of my fathers. This is just the way I read the Bible, see the Scripture unfolding. The Bible says that his brothers envied him because he was loved of his father, and that his father clothed him with this coat of many colors. It appears to me that Joseph was the link between the forgotten blessing and promise of Abraham and the fulfillment in the life of Jacob.
Well,
it reflects
Very good.
All those things that are yet to be done.
Very good.
And it is the link, appears to be, to me anyway. And so he clothes this boy in a representation, these multifaceted colors of the unfulfilled promise. This is the boy that's the link between all those yet to be fulfilled, multifaceted.
Oh, that's good.
And he clothes him with this so that every time he sees Joseph out and about, it reminds him, it's coming, it's not yet.
Yes.
Well, the priest reflects this same nature. These are the things, the glory of God that is.
Okay, so if I could just jump in here, and I know we're on the home stretch. We talked about this, and I'm not going to even talk about it as in length as we discussed it today. But I think it's noteworthy that this idea, especially with you tying it back to Lucifer's arrayed position pre his fall, it's really interesting to me that, and I use this in teaching on holiness, that when Adam and Eve fall, they adorn themselves with aprons. And so if there is correlation between what you're wearing and your purpose and what you're wearing and where you're going, this is reflective of their mindset of what was coming their way. Okay?
Yeah.
And there's anyway.
Yeah.
God
This
comes.
is what it's like sitting in the
This
living room.
is what it's like. Yes, this is what it's like. God comes and goes, nah. I have a plan for you that's way bigger. And so he introduces to them a coat of skin rather than an apron of fig leaves.
Yeah.
That same word is used there, that God made a coat. That word coat there is the same as when God spoke to Moses and said, make a coat for Aaron.
Yeah.
So it's like he is introducing immediately after the fall, in type and shadow, the remedy.
Right.
And he puts it on the priesthood.
Yeah. And eventually, what's Paul say? That we should put on Christ.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So we're robed with the covering of Christ.
Yes, we are.
And obviously, if any Bible student would fully understand this, it is a complete foreshadowing, beginning in the garden,
Totally.
with
Totally.
the priesthood
Totally.
of the redeeming work of Christ.
Yes.
That he's going to fully cover humanity. We're going to put him on and then reflect his glory.
Well, because
that,
if using your principle here as the setup for this, let's go back and read where he says, well, the lamb that was slain from the foundation of the world. So it was prepared long before the duty was fulfilled.
Right.
Even before the fall, the preparation was already in place for the adornment of that lamb.
Amen. I would like to just, in the last few minutes here, if I could, bring it back to a practical application to any young minister or any developing minister that might be listening, that, don't get too ahead of God. Allow God to fit you with preparation for what he wants you to be clothed with in order that you might fulfill what he actually has for you to do. Don't rush ahead of God to duty. Allow the process of preparation to work. You'll be fully fitted. You'll be fully equipped unto every good work.
Yes.
So allow that process. I'll never forget when I was, and just let me know when we need to wind down here, but when I was just getting into the ministry, I was still in Bible school. It was in between my junior and senior year, maybe my freshman and junior year. It was a 3-year course at that time. I had opportunity. A man that I knew, trusted, he invited me to come for the summer and to work with the youth, be a youth leader, youth pastor, for that season of time. And, well, that sounded like that's what I'm called to do, right? I mean,
Sure.
it's duty.
Sure.
That's what.
Sure. I'm ready.
And I was so excited. Man, my first opportunity to engage in action and activity. And, man, I couldn't wait to go back to my pastor and get his approval.
I think I know where this is going.
This is not going to end well.
Yeah.
So I went back to my pastor, so excited about this first opportunity. And it was just, no. Not, I don't think so. Not, it's probably not a good idea. Not, it was just, no. My whole world just melted because I was so conditioned to think that ministry is all about duty. Well, it is, but there's a process that precedes that.
Yes.
It's the process of being fully fitted, robed, clothed, prepared appropriately.
What are some of those, and you're probably going there, but what are some of those practical means of being fit yourself and it being fitted upon you? I mean,
right.
There's really both.
Right. Just thinking here, obviously personal consecration.
Sure.
Anytime someone comes to me, a young man, and says, Brother Patrick, what is your suggestion to me in my pursuit of being used of God? My answer is usually always the same. Number one, focus on your consecration. And read your Bible. Give yourself to the study.
Yes.
Give yourself to prayer and to the Word of God. And in that process, God will make sure, if you are fully submitted, God will make sure that the things that need to happen to prepare you will happen.
Yeah.
The men that need to touch your life and the things that need to happen to you to work out of you and into you, the things that need to come out and the things that need to go in, and be a servant. The Bible says, the book of Proverbs, every man's gift will make room for itself. We've tended to think, well, okay, so if I'm gifted, it will eventually push its way out into the open.
Mm-hmm.
The greater context and the greater understanding of that idea is every man's gift, whatever it is he is giving out, will eventually make more room for giving. So
very good.
My application of that is if you say you're called of God and you have a gift and you're just sitting doing nothing, you're going to be doing that in 20 years. So don't think that your gift is just going to automatically make room for you.
Yeah, your gift doesn't need to be doing all the work.
So at the moment, and this, all I have is my own personal examples, and I may have shared these before, but when I went to my pastor and said, I feel like I'm called to preach. Now, catch the weightiness of that.
Yeah.
I feel like I am called to preach.
Yes.
He said, well, we'll see. He said, why don't you go check with the Sunday school superintendent and see what's needed? No, I said, I feel
maybe you
like
misunderstood me.
Well, okay, this is where
Maybe you should have said, I feel.
looking for my preacher voice. Yeah. But this goes back to my point on every man's gift makes room for itself. So what did I do? I said, okay. So I went to the Sunday school superintendent and I said, Pastor sent me to you to ask where I'm needed. He said, man, I'm so glad you came. He said, we've been needing somebody in the toddler class. So for 2 years, I
You
taught
preached.
the toddler class at the direction of my pastor. So,
And you were okay with that? Never
well, I
doubted?
submitted to it.
No, I didn't ask if you
Yeah,
submitted to it.
that's clearly not the same question.
That was a political response to a question right there. Yeah, I didn't ask.
Honestly, thinking back, at first it was a little, but I was okay with it.
Yeah. Well,
Here's-
you had to be, or else
Yeah.
you don't get past it.
Yeah.
You'd still be in the toddler class.
Here's where, as a podcast, we have to reach out to you, the listener, and say, if you were preached at as a toddler by Reverend K-Pat, reach out to us.
Yes, we need to hear from you.
Yes. There's help available for you.
Yes.
Oh, if they're still saved, that in itself would be a miracle, right? The point simply being that wherever you exercise your gift, it will in time begin to make process
it will.
room for it.
Yes.
And what's happening in those processes is you are being fitted. You're being prepared.
Well, I've made this statement before, which would lend maybe a bit more to the previous interpretation of that scripture, and I agree with what you're saying. But I've also said, if to underscore the importance of preparation
Yeah.
and trying to get ahead, you don't want to get into a room and get into it before your gift does.
Yeah, boy, that's so good.
If you get in amongst
We've
great
all
men,
seen that.
and your gift's not there, but if your gift gets there ahead of you, the room will be ready for you.
Yeah, that's so good.
It'll be prepared.
So good. Yeah. And over time, it happens
Yes.
as God fits you and God, I think back in my early years of ministry, the things that I thought I was ready for, that I was disappointed God didn't allow, looking back now, realizing I wasn't fit.
The Coke wasn't quite ready.
Yes.
And it would have been disaster for me and disaster for the toddlers. I mean, the
Right.
people that
The toddlers.
and the other thing, and I would just make this point, I've learned in my own life is, let's go back to the toddlers class. I was not a toddler Sunday school teacher, but in the process of time, I adapted. I was not an evangelist. When I got into the ministry full time, I was an evangelist for 8.5 years. I was not an evangelist, but
Right.
eventually God formed
Right.
me into
Right.
an evangelist. He prepared me. When I became a pastor, I was not a pastor. I had to be formed and fitted
Right.
into that.
Right.
And so it's not something, I guess, that just happens one time. It's a continual.
I was going to say that's an ongoing. If we could use this analogy, ministry is not an off the rack fitting.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a customized
Yeah.
fitting, and those always take longer.
Right. Yeah.
They fit better,
That's so good.
but they always take longer.
Yeah.
So, if you want a generic off the rack ministry, then just go ahead and start now. Go out to the street corner and get at it.
Yeah.
But if you want to be tailored,
Yeah.
for
Because
that garment,
now I know this applies only to the high priest, but in the analogy to ministry, eventually these garments are going to let you go into the most sacred place
wow,
of the temple.
yes,
They're going to take you places. If you'll stay in the
Yes.
garment,
yes, yes.
you'll go places that your humanity never could have been allowed. So don't get ahead of God. Don't get ahead of the process. Don't get ahead of the duty. But let God form you and make you and fit you and prepare you, because what He's preparing you for is going to be worth the time that you give to do it.